In esports, like in real life, esports athletes can face mental health issues. Some are born with mental illnesses, while others struggle with alcohol or drugs. Sometimes players can go crazy due to overhype around their personalities. Today, you'll learn about such esports madmen. Remember, if you have mental health problems, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Seek help from a specialist. Obo. Owen "Obo" Schlatter was a promising North American player.
They've got 2 players remaining of the 5. They're taking some more damage. He has no Kevlar as well, down to 6 HP. He is getting cut to ribbons, but it's a 2 versus 2 now, so they've been clawing things back, and all of a sudden Fallen is alone. He can't quite finish them off. Man like Obo with the ace in the pistol round. The new man, how old is he, 15?
At the age of 16, he joined Complexity, forming a top team. Strong European players like BlameF, Config, and Poison were added to the roster. Later, the team transitioned to the European region. During the online era, the team surged into the European elite, even winning Blast Premier Spring 2020, the first Tier 1 CSGO tournament victory for the tag.
It's looking real good for Complexity to maybe close this out. Obo continuing the defense downstairs, and it's all on the shooter. He's going to get dropped. It's 16 to 12. Complexity are your champions, ladies and gentlemen. Amazing run here at the Blast Premier Spring Finals.
The club's CEO, Jason Lake, was extremely happy and even cried with joy during an interview after the victory.
Man with the vision to put this team together, to make it happen here. He was the one who got roasted when he made the claims that he wasn't here to play. He was here to win and create a juggernaut team that could compete on the world stage. He put it all on the line.
There were no weak spots in the lineup, and the boys confidently rose to the top. Owen, at the age of 17, had a rating of 1.12 against top teams. It was believed that he could become the best player in his region in the future. The peak for the team came in late September 2020. They entered the top 5 HLTV rankings for the first time and prepared for ESL Pro League fall season. However, just before the tournament, Obo left the team and flew back to America.
I received a call 1:30 in the morning, Dallas time, and Owen let me know that he was at the airport and his flight was in 2 hours. We discussed options, and I encouraged him to try to stay the additional 2 weeks to finish the playoffs. And he decided to return home. It's a difficult situation. He really toughed it out for a lot of months, and we're very grateful for that.
Completely unexpectedly and without notifying anyone, he bought tickets and returned home.
I was just like scrolling up to see what was happened, and then I saw a message from Owen saying that he left the team and he's not going to play with us today, even though we had like a really important tournament that day.
As the player explained, he deeply missed his homeland and wanted to see his family and friends. Plus, the ongoing pandemic and its related restrictions were taking a toll, so Obo made this impulsive decision. Despite this unfortunate act, Jason Lake promised to assist the player in finding a new team.
I want to note there was no team drama or fights or arguments. This was a decision that Owen needed to make for himself. Moving forward, we'll be working with him to find a new North American base team for him to play on.
However, he was not willing to release Owen for free, stating that significant buyouts were specified in the contract. Complexity couldn't find a replacement for Obo, and a year later, they disbanded their once top-tier roster. Then, Obo found a team in North America.
Hello everybody, my name is Owen "Obo" Schlatter. I am the new 5th for Evil Geniuses CSGO.
After half a year, he moved to Evil Geniuses, where he did not perform as well as before.
10 seconds on this push again. They flush out Dexter, they know Frozen plays here, and Obo gives all the entries. They've got a plant. Oh my god, it's close, but yeah, they do have it. Obo!
Didn't matter.
Jeez Louise,
They wanted to kill us.
Absolutely bodies them.
Although the team qualified for the major in Stockholm, they finished at the bottom of the table. After the tournament, Obo left the team. By August 2022, Obo disappeared from the media space. Later, he started posting strange photos. He shared a few photos on Twitter with a yellow toy dog in his hands. The player himself had a neglected appearance, long hair, unkempt nails, and facial hair. It became clear that the American was facing mental health problems and needed help. After the public outcry, Config reached out to Obo, and Jason Lake contacted his family, making sure the player was not in danger. As a result, Obo's Twitter account now looks like this. Since that time, the young talent has not played a single match on the pro scene. Perhaps we won't see him in a top team again. Nyx. We just couldn't do without Russians on this list. Today, our disrespectful guest is Alexander Nyx Levin, the #1 RU community caster in Dota 2, a former player of Hellraisers, and simply a fruit enthusiast. Success in streaming and casting propelled his self-esteem to stratospheric levels. The absence of meat in his diet significantly affected the amount of gray matter in his brain. Throughout 2023, he had conflicts with streamers, players, teams, and even tournaments. A classic example is Nyx's hate towards Dendi.
Я не понимаю, почему он просто не может в бот прийти? Ну почему он думает, что просто стоять в миде, сука, 30 минут и звать под себя людей, играя так 20 лет подряд, и это же не работает. Но он столько в миде играет, он должен вообще там все об этом миде знать, я не знаю. Он так любит этот мид, что он просто с него не уходит. Всю игру. 40 минут стоит в миде.
He constantly talks about Daniel's hypocrisy and how he portrays himself as good and positive on stream, but is toxic and egotistical off stream.
Почему Дэнди хейтит? Вот в чем проблема?
Дэнди почему хейтит?
Да.
Из-за двуличности. Только из-за этого. И все.
В чем заключается двуличность?
Ну, в том, что он в медиа типа добрый и хороший, а в ММе очень токсичный. Прям невероятно токсичный. Он обвиняет всех в своих поражениях, он ну там очень прям, ну короче, неприятные слова говорит, то есть прям такой, знаешь, там и про мать и так далее.
Да, я понял.
However, Nyx himself didn't turn out any better. This was evident in his conflict with the streamer Rostic, when the all-positive and righteous Sigma male Nyx exploded due to a dropped mango, a pause, and tips.
Реально клоун вообще. Да он ведет себя просто как вообще.
Even after Rostic's apologies,
хочу изначально извиниться, Сань, то, что я тебя там типал, что-то еще паузил. Ну, я просто не думал, что тебя так эти паузы могут довести, понимаешь? Ну, просто я не понимал, серьезно.
Nyx didn't stop and continued to say bad things about him.
Ты идешь по улице, тебе ударили в лицо, ты сказал извини? Или что? Он заснайпил меня на смурфе, контр-пикнул, дропает шмотки, он дропает манго, ему типа смешно, типа я фрукт ем. Смешно, долб***ику. Дропает мне манго, динает мне 4 крипа, потому что у героя 400 урона с тотема. И паузу ставит, будучи абсолютно мусорным трехпуловым игроком, который вообще ничего в этой игре не умеет. Он позволяет себе вот такую.
If you think Nyx is only this audacious with Eastern European media personalities, you're mistaken. For instance, he referred to Sumail as a dead player and Tundra as a trash team, and labeled the Dream League format as poor. His fans love these clickbait quotes, and even before them, Levin has crafted the image of Sigma male Patrick Bateman. Nyx constantly talks about motivation and the right mentality, only he and his fans forget who was Patrick Bateman in the movie. And Sigma male memes were originally ironic, i.e. not to be taken seriously. Behind this image, Nyx turned out to be just a typical toxic and egotistical Dota player, whose popularity turned his head.
Вы не чувствуете какое-то двуличие, лицемерие от человека?
Sick. Another once promising North American player, Hunter Sick Mims, played for Complexity and TSM, and attended 3 CSGO majors. And with the advent of Valorant, he joined one of the best teams in the world, Sentinels.
Okay, need to get swing around. Sick good for 3. Sick in a 1v1 against Penny. Sick just down to 33 health though, and the clock continuing to tick away. Penny can just play this out for time. Sick! Baby, you call him Sick because that boy's cold. He comes up huge for Sentinels and gets the defuse to take him to map point.
Sick was a star of the team, but he hadn't played for Sentinels for over a year now, since May 2022. Back then, he was benched, citing family circumstances as the reason. The player later explained that he had mental health issues. During VCT lock-in 2023, Sick really wanted to play but was only listed as a substitute. After Sentinel's early elimination, Sick posted a photo of the old team lineup and constantly mocked the club's official Twitter account. Later, he had a dispute with Dev's wife. Later, Sick had a heated conversation with IGL of Sentinels himself, expressing his dissatisfaction that no one in the team was listening to him and respecting his position.
Well then Def, he says in the group chat, he says something like, bro, don't talk about my wife like this, bro, like, what are you doing, bro? Like, what is this, bro? And I'm like, you guys are not good people. No one is respecting my opinion. No one is seeing my position. They aren't understanding me. And these are people I know well. I know Def very well. 2 years I've known this man. He's a good man to me, but I don't know what's going on with him. Maybe he's upset about the loss. Whatever, bro.
In early March, Sick mentioned on his stream that he bought a Ferrari.
I bought a Ferrari today. No joke.
He also shared that his relatives called him offering help, saying that Hunter had gone crazy because he couldn't afford such a car. The esports athlete added his relatives to the blacklist and stated that he no longer wanted to know them.
And I have my own family member, man, calling me, asking me if I'm schizophrenic, telling me she's going to call someone to help me, saying that I can't afford this car. Have you lost your mind? I had to block them. I'm not doing this person ever again. They're not my people. Wow.
Later, he was on a video of an incident at the Ferrari dealership. Sick refused to leave the dealership after a corresponding request from an employee.
Get out of my office.
Okay, bye.
Get out of the store.
No, I'm not leaving the store, bro.
Get out of the store. I will call the police on you.
Your office, bro.
Get out of the store or I will call the police.
On March 4th, he was arrested for the first time for unlawful entry. The punishment for this offense ranged from a $2,000 fine to 180 days in jail. 11 days after the arrest, Sentinels posted a $5,000 bail, and Sick was released. Sick was suspended from training, and Sentinels CEO Bob Moore wrote that they would support the player during this difficult time. In May, Sick returned to the media space. Things didn't get better, only worse. Initially, he started posting very strange tweets. 42. This number means something. I need new cats. Sick also started a stream where he behaved very strangely.
Please do not chat. No, I haven't. You're crazy, bro. Alright, without into prime. Thanks, I would never deal with that again. I gotta keep my shit locked up, bro.
Later after the stream, he was arrested again for the same reason. Unlawful entry onto someone else's property. The player came back in early June, announcing that he would undergo therapy that was supposed to change his life. For some time, the esports athlete continued to stream until the end of July, when he held his last Valorant stream. And before we continue, we'd like to remind you that you can support our channel financially. You can do this via Patreon or PayPal. All the details can be found in the description below this video. Funnick. A fan of Moonfax and Little Molly's, Glib Funnick Lepatnikov. In 2016, he began his story with Moonfax.
Я буду называть все факты в СНГ лунными фактами, потому что это не факты, это хуй.
The 1%.
Кроку и Климент, вы сделали правильный выбор 2 года назад, когда отреклись от этого конченного места. Вы красавчики, вы умны. И это делает вас боссами. Боссами Доты. Лода, ты, PPD, Xiao8. Это то же самое я. Все это боссы Доты. Нас 1%, а вас 99%.
And Artstyle's love for cherry juice vodka.
А факт в том, что когда я его вытащил из дерьма, человек вместо того, чтобы пошевелить палец о палец хотя бы для себя, ездил по ресторанчикам, жрал 300 водочки и вишневого сока и зазывал меня постоянно, хотя я ему говорил: Ванечка, Ванечка, вначале, пожалуйста, давай играть в дотку, или мы будем сосать.
However, back then we thought that Funnick released that speech on emotions after his departure from NAVI. In 2023, we understand that Funnick already had mental health problems due to drug addiction. By the way, if you are interested in learning more about the history of Moonfax, write about it in the comments. Moonfax 2.0 began at the end of July 2023 when Funnick was kicked from Bait.
Ну вот, лунные факты World 2, пацаны.
After that, he held a stream, not being very sober, blaming Dendy and the club for not paying $7,000 in DPC prize money.
А вы не забыли, что ты... А ты не забыл, что ты мне 7 тысяч, дружочек, сорвал? Ты не забыл? Ты так не думаешь? 2 DPC, 7 тысяч. Не забыл?
Funnick also mentioned that he had to leave Ukraine due to persecution by bandits, who later beat him in Serbia, forcing him to move to North Macedonia. According to Ghostic, at the beginning of the big war with Russia, it was Dendy who sheltered the Kharkiv native Funnick at his home in Lviv. However, Funnick went on a rampage. On the evening of August 11th, he posted over 50 stories on his Instagram where he called Dendy a boot and a 15-year-old girl.
Ну, как минимум на миде там ботинок, баба 15 лет.
He also accused Bait of match fixing.
Почему-то Балтика 8 решила, что после того, как она 3-2-2 шла на мне с 3 типами 6 месяцев, а потом и с 4, или не с 4,
and the club's connections to a Russian 322 bookmaker. Not receiving a public response, he put Dendy on the account and announced a safari against him. In the end, Funnick counted a debt of $60,000 on him. How did Bait react to Funnick's statements? They didn't, as the team was preparing and playing the North American qualifiers for the International. After the qualifiers, we found out that during the preparation for the qualification, Funnick was skipping scrims and behaving inadequately, which led to one of the potential sponsors refusing to work with the club. As for Funnick himself, after a top 2 finish at Bait in the qualifiers, he backed down. He praised the team and forgave Dendy's debt. He also declared that he is now a new person under the nickname Geneva146. That's it. What esports madman did we forget? Write about it in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Good game.